Hi everybody, thanks for joining me today on my online workshop. I'm Liz Fleming of the Grants Club, and we're going to be learning about how to write successful grant applications. So let's make a start. So who here is a small business owner or part of an organisation or a community group that is looking for grants? Yes, there's a few of us in the room. Now, the problem we've got with grants is that we don't always know what's required, and we also have a very short time to be able to make the application amongst everything else we're doing. And especially if we're on committees or if it's a side hustle and we're working as well, then, it's just another thing to add to our to-do list. And so we know that we're already wearing heaps of hats, time is scarce and limited, and we don't always have people to help us either. So this is why I do this online workshop, to share the steps that I take to make successful grant applications and a little bit about what you need to do to be ready to make those applications as well. So I want to start by getting you to think about, have there been any grant opportunities that you've missed out on for your organisation, for your business? Have you heard of other people getting grants that you could have applied for? That's what we're here today to avoid as much as possible and to be prepared. So I'm Liz of the Grants Club. I'm a grants coach and grants writer for small businesses, not-for-profits and community groups. And I take a strategic approach when it comes to finding funding opportunities, taking a bigger picture lens of your organization so that I can support you to get that growth that you want. And I love that grants and funding are available in Australia, but we do need to know how to access it, and we need to know how we can be ready and put our best foot forward so that we get that money into our bank accounts. So I always start this online workshop with a bit of a geeky admission that I do love writing grant applications, and there's not that many people that do that and do it. And I also love taking a strategic approach as well. So I'm a chartered accountant by trade, and I've also worked in government agencies where I was responsible for the facilitation of some grant programs. So got that back end knowledge of how it all works, what's on the panel, how do we piece it all together. Also got an 85% success rate and 100% success rate of submitting the grants on time. We've never missed a deadline, which is very, very important, because nowadays with the technology, we're having to put them into the grant portals. We can't just email it. If we miss something, they might not accept it. We can't, not submit something and not have that information. And I work with you and your organisation to take a strategic approach to your growth strategies and plans, or help you to develop them in the first place if you're not sure where the direction is that you need to be headed. So they are my thing, and I am here to encourage you to let me work in my zone of genius so that you can work in yours. Nobody starts a business to write funding applications all the time. Well, I want you to be able to be enjoying what you're doing in business and get that funding to grow and enhance your impact that you are having in your chosen field. I did also forget to say, if you have any questions throughout this online workshop, please pop them into the chat, put a letter Q so I can differentiate the questions from the comments. So this is a bit of my favorite quote when it comes to grants and what I'm all about, but nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity. I don't know how many times I've had clients say, oh, but that business down the road got a grant and look at what they've done and we didn't even know about it, and all that kind of stuff. So it's all about being grant ready and knowing how to write a successful grant application. And also, nobody is going to come along from the government and hand you an invitation to apply for the grant, nor are they just going to hand you money willy-nilly to do whatever you want with either. So there is a bit of a process. But the good news is that at the moment, and at any point in time, there's more than 1,500 grants available in Australia across local government, councils, state governments, and also the federal governments as well. But that doesn't mean to say that those 1,500 grants that you and your organization can apply for. So that's the tricky part, but you're in the right place to find out more and to be becoming more successful with that grant funding. So let's get into it. This is my proven process that I shared today that I use exactly with my clients. And it has time and time again been really, really important. It gives it that structure. It allows the collaboration. It allows everything to be finalized and making sure we don't miss anything. We don't want to get to the end of the submission and we've forgotten something, we haven't got a document, we haven't got something signed. So this is the exact process that I follow. And I promise you that you will have some gold nuggets hopefully taken away after today's workshop. So the first thing is about preparing your organization for success. And what does success actually mean for you? Now, this will mean different things for different people, and it depends where you're at in your business or organization journey. So this is also when we are talking about a particular grant application. A grant program has come out and we're pretty sure we can apply for it. So this is where we identify the grant opportunity. We need to find all the information about the grant program. So there'll be guidelines, there'll be FAQ documents, there'll be templates and blanks, blank application form, there'll be a portal to log into. But at this point, it's all about making sure that we can even apply and we can read through the eligibility criteria to make sure that we are not wasting our time. I quite often print off the guidelines and that information and then go through with a highlighter of those key words. What are the objectives? What are the outcomes? Because this is all going to be the information that we're going to then insert back into our responses for our grant application. At this point, it's all about getting organized and drafting what your project is going to look like and what are we applying for. So there'll be the eligibility from an organization point of view, and there'll be the eligibility from a project point of view as well, in terms of limits of dollars spent, type of expenditure. What can we spend the money on? Are there exclusions? Are there things we can spend it on and some things we can't? What does our overall project look like as well? And this is where I always create a grant strategy plan document, which is basically the application form in a Word document that's our overall Bible of what we're going to be working together on throughout the grant application process, and making sure we don't miss anything and allowing us to plan properly, create some guidelines within that short time frame. Again, sometimes it's between 2 and 4 weeks. If we get 6 weeks, we're pretty lucky. And that's only if we've found out about the grant in the first week of it being released. And the governments don't do a very good job of advertising because they know that they're going to have people apply. And so they don't really care if they don't promote it because that makes more work for them. But also they know that there's going to be enough people applying most of the time. And at this point also, I do offer a 15-minute chat. It's called a grant app chat with Liz to discuss the grant, to discuss the eligibility, to set you on your way. And then if you do want to work together, we can work that out as well. But if you just want to do it yourself, that's fine. I still offer that 15-minute chat because I don't want people to waste their time applying for grants that they're not even eligible for. And I have seen it before. A client I was doing a grant for, they were getting a letter of support, which we'll talk about later, from a neighbouring business. And they're like, oh yeah, we're applying for this grant as well. And I was like, oh, that's a bit strange because wine producers are explicitly excluded from making an application. It even said it in the guidelines. So here they had wasted 2 or 3 weeks of their time making this application, and they submitted it, and wasn't my place to tell them they can't apply for it because they weren't my client, and they got a no straight away and they wondered why. So again, attention to detail, checking the guidelines, reading them once, going away, coming back, getting someone else to check it as well to be like, are we eligible? Because if we're not, we're just wasting our time and we need to find a grant that's more relevant and more appropriate for what we want to do. So, step 2 is about planning our approach. And again, I've repeated, read the guidelines because as our project evolves, as we start adding different things in, making sure that we always are eligible and meet the guidelines. What's the time frame? Who needs to do what? Who's going to work with you on this actual application? What are the funding limits? Now, again, this is really key, because if we've got a project that we think might cost $100,000 and the grant's only for $10,000, we need to have that $90,000 from somewhere else, either our own bank accounts, our own business, or some other means of accessing those funds. So this is where it's really important to absolutely know what you're going to be applying for. Who is going to be the subject matter expert? Who is going to do the legwork in that grant application? Now, it doesn't have to be me, but I do encourage you to work with someone that has experience and had success in writing grant applications. Not just a writer. I've seen it recently where through another organisation, committee group that I'm on, we engaged a grant writer, and it just turned out they didn't even know what they were doing. They were not setting us up for success. We were trying to give them the information. We were also trying to let them do their job. And it turns out that grant writing is not in their wheelhouse as a writer. So just make sure that they've had success with actually getting funds through the grant applications. And when we're talking about deadlines, aim to submit it 1 or 2 days before the hard deadline of the submission end date. And also making sure that if it closes at midnight, do not be logging onto the computer at 11:30 to upload everything. Because we can't ring anybody. It's out of business hours. If the portal crashes, no one's going to be there to care. Nobody knows that we're even making the application, because there's never any registration opportunities. So again, that's a really important key point when you are actually making a submission. And at this point as well, when we're in that planning phases, you've got a decision point. Now that you've planned out your project, you've double checked those guidelines 3 or 4 times. Do we continue? Do we proceed? Or do we stop? So I've put that in there as a point of, are we going to put the energy and focus into this grant application? Because is it aligned with our values? Is it us setting up for success? And is it what we really want to be doing? And, I'm all for molding around the edges to make something fit into a grant application and to meet the guidelines and the objectives if it's largely there. But if it's something completely left field, then we really need to get clear about whether it is part of our strategic direction. Now, step 3 is really about the Word doc, the grant application form. It's just a table with the question, a response, the deadline, and who's going to be responsible for it. And this becomes a working document that can be shared amongst your team as you are writing your grant application. Make sure you add the word and character limits from the grant application form. This has stumped a lot of people and tripped a lot of people up, where they've thought they've had to write hundreds and hundreds of words for a particular question. And when they've gone back to the grant application form, it actually says, oh no, you can only write 10 words. So again, it is going to determine how you write it and how you plan to write it as well. Creating a list of the supporting documents required and identifying which ones have to be externally created or obtained, and ones that can be created internally. They might be documents that you've already had developed. What supporting documents we need, and we'll talk a bit more about them soon, is vital. Because if we don't have, especially anything over 50,000 grant in Australia requires last 3 years of financials. And I've unfortunately had clients that just did not have their financials up to date and weren't allowed to apply. And we did contact the grant program and tried to explain our case, and they just wouldn't accept it. So there are some hard and fast rules that need to be met there. And at this point, also creating the account for the grants portal for your submission. So putting your email address in, creating a password. And the reason why I encourage you to do this is to double check that grant application form that they've given as a PDF as part of the documents for the grant program matches exactly what's in the grants portal. I've seen it lately on probably 4 or 5 grants where they don't match. Obviously, they've deleted questions later on. They have added different ones. And so when we've gone to do this, I'm like, hang on, this isn't the same. So I've had to go back, update my grant strategy plan for what's in the portal and go from there. So double check that as well. This grant strategy plan will become your Bible throughout this process, and it is absolutely crucial to every grant. I do not write a grant without a grant strategy plan document that I share with my client. And even if I was writing it just for myself to not even share with anybody, this is how I would definitely do it. I do it. Step 4 is about strategizing and focusing down on your project. So conducting an in-depth strategy session, and this is what I do with my clients, running through all of the components of the grant strategy plan and having a rough brainstorm of your project ideas, your plans, your collabs. How are you going to respond to these questions? What kind of questions are they asking us? Do we have that information? Can we make it up? Do we have other documents we can submit? Or how in depth are they asking? I've done grants for $20,000 where we've had to answer 4 questions. And I've done other grants for $20,000 to buy a piece of equipment where we've had to submit a 40-page dossier of everything, from a communications plan to a business plan to an event, how you were going to celebrate the grant. It's just crazy. So this is where you do need to have that run through of what are they expecting, how are we going to answer it, and who's going to help us to do it. Developing a budget. Now, I know a lot of people are not financially minded, but at the end of the day, grants are money. So the governments are outsourcing to us as business owners, as not-for-profits, as community groups, to do something and achieve something that they think it's better off to be outsourced to other people. So the budget is really, really important. You need to know your funding limits. You also need to know if there's a matching percentage. So if it's 50-50, 30-70, I was going to say a third. And also, again, as I said before, what costs have to be excluded. And sometimes you've got to put the full budget in for the project and then identify what expenditure is going to be covered by this particular grant. And again, working out what your focus will be. Every grant program will have objectives and outcomes that they're trying to achieve. Sometimes they make you focus on just one objective. Sometimes you've got to focus on all 4. So again, building that back into your project plan of how are you going to achieve those particular things. Step 5, now this is a big part, and I've mentioned it a couple of times already, you're supporting documents. Now this varies for each grant that is out there. They're never the same, but there are some key documents that are generally the same type of information. So we can get these ready in advance. But what I'm talking about here is business plans, marketing plans, project delivery plan, your Gantt charts, reviews and case studies of past project success. So basically being able to demonstrate why the government should give you the money to go and do the project that you are proposing. In here also, I'm talking about letters of support. Some grant programs specifically ask for letters of support from neighbouring businesses or other people that are going to be involved. Some don't specifically ask for it, but I, as a general rule, do not let a client submit any grant application without at least one letter of support. It really just demonstrates your collaboration. Also, the good benefit this particular project is going to have on an area, a different cohort of people or a different community group, and really demonstrating that greater impact if this project was to be supported. Getting quotes from your trusted suppliers. And I talk a lot about grant readiness, and this is one thing where you could do in advance. If you're thinking about a project that you would love to have funds to execute, go and talk to those suppliers. Go and plan that project out first. Go and grab those quotes and say, hey, look, I'm looking at doing these projects. One, it will give you an idea of how much that project is going to cost. I've had clients where they've come to me and said, oh, Liz, I've got this project I really want to do, but it's too expensive. But at that point, they hadn't got any quotes. So they've gone out, got a few quotes, and realized, actually, this is about a 30% project cost of what I thought. So they thought it was going to be $100,000. Actually, in all honesty, what they need to do to achieve it was about $30,000. And then they've realized, well, actually, my financial reports are up to date. I could find that $30,000 in my bank and go and do that project anyway to be able to create those efficiencies in my business without even needing a grant. So a couple of reasons there. And then also making sure that the project that you're proposing fits within those funding limits of this grant program as well. As I've said before, keeping your financial reports up to date. So, you know, what are we, April 24? You should have had your 30 June 2023 financial reports completed and signed off so that you can attach them to any grant. Generally in Australia, any grant over $50,000 will require financial reports to be attached to show your solvency, to show your revenue, expenditure and profitability. And I know some people struggle to hand over that information. I don't believe that information is used for any other purpose to prove a tick box of yes, they have financials, they're financially sound. That's it. And key business information. So this is knowing your ABN number, knowing your entity type, knowing your GST registration, being registered for GST. It's my strong belief that nobody should be not registered for GST. So if you want to have a chat about that, more than happy to. Number of employees, turnover, all of that stuff sometimes needs to be put in there, your contact information. So we can definitely be collating all that information to begin with. And so, you know, today I'm sharing my 8 steps and we're up to step 6. And now we're going to collate everything that we've already collected and all the work that we've done, all the brainstorming that we've done, and going back to our grant strategy plan to start really writing our draft application. So we might have brainstormed, we might have had a few key ideas and words written down, and now we're really going to write our responses and making sure that we're sticking to those word limits. And then again, going back to the all-important guidelines of checking that criteria to address. Some grant applications will also give you some guidance on, they'll ask the question and then they'll say, this is what we mean by it, or this is what we want you to include. So again, making sure we're answering the question they're asking, not the question that we want to answer, and being really plain about it as well. I will write, if the question is, what is your project about? I will answer that by starting with, this project is to purchase XYZ that will lead to this kind of outcome. Being really blunt about it. Remember, the people on the panel know nothing about you, nothing about your organisation, nothing about your project, and this is your only chance. Think of it as a CV. You've got no fancy notepads or coloured paper or anything like that to send in. It's just a boring old portal that doesn't look so great. They're probably reviewing 100 other applications. So our language that we use has to be straight to the point, has to be in a positive light, in my opinion, so that they can then get on board and go, hey, this sounds like a really good project. How can we showcase our organisation and our project in the best possible light so that they tick the box and give us the approval? Check the assessment weightings. And it's interesting that they give assessment weightings because they normally have, 4, 6 questions. That'll add up to 100%. For the weightings, and yet there's all these other documents we've had to attach as well. So, obviously, when there's greater weighting, make sure that you are writing that in such a way that you're answering that question to be convincing, to be persuasive. Finalising the budget and making sure that you're using either the budget template that they give you or a really clear template for the budget so that they can understand it. And if you do have to attach a budget as a document and then also type it in straight into the portal in the table that they're giving you, make sure they match. Because I've seen that before where they haven't matched and they've contacted the applicant to say, well, which one is it? Because you've got 2 different numbers. So just that attention to detail is really, really important. Don't give them a reason to say no because you make a small mistake. That is not what we're about. And ensuring the responses align with the objectives and the outcomes. Again, coming back to those guidelines. And this is why I print them off, highlight it. So I've got it there when I'm getting to this stage where I'm writing it. What words am I needing to include? How am I going to present this? And being consistent with your language as well. So how are you referring to the project? How are you referring to the participants? Making sure that you're using that consistent language throughout your application as well. We're nearly there. So when we're writing it, we've had a good go at it. We're up to our word limits. Now we're going to really make sure that we're showcasing our organisation and our project in the best time. We don't even know who else has applied. We don't know what other projects are coming up. So we need to write it in a way that's persuasive to be like, we are the best. And also assume nothing, making sure that we can explain it in a very succinct way, because we won't have a whole lot of words, that they can understand it. Using simple English, easy to understand. Remember, if you're using jargon and acronyms, that's somewhere you explain exactly what you are talking about and referring to. As I keep saying, showcasing your project in the best possible light, including the benefits to the targeted audience, and use of strong and positive language. I've seen time and time again grant applications written in the negative, where people are basically like writing in real desperation, saying, well, if I don't get this grant, a business is going to go bust. That's not going to be helpful to a panelist in a government department. They're like, oh, that's not my problem. You know, that what they're concerned with is, does your application meet the objectives of the guidelines of this grant program? Can it tick the box? And can you demonstrate that you're going to be successful in implementing this project for them? Because at the end of the day, you're doing this on behalf of the government. Grant funds don't have to be paid back. They're not like a loan, but you also have to deliver what you said you were going to deliver as well. So important to know that. And now we're up to the last step. So we have written it, a grant application, we've collated all the documents, we've overlaid it with some persuasive words, some really positive language. I always get someone else to review it and proofread it. So this can be at the grant strategy plan stage, still in the Word document. And I often get my clients to do that, review it, proofread it, but also make sure it's factually correct as well. At the end of the day, the application is in their name, it's on their behalf. They need to be happy with what is being included in that as well. Sometimes you can get someone that knows nothing about your business or your project to review it as well, and then get them to relay back to you a summary of what you've included and see whether they're on the mark. Then we take that grant strategy plan, copy and paste it into the grants portal. I'll do snippets of this throughout the process. So the basic business information, I'll put all that in there. The questions, the longer responses, I will put in last, or I will make sure that I know that I have to update it. So again, having a bit of version control, knowing how you're going to update it, and that process is totally up to you. Then having a final review of the grant application in the portal, and then you're going to press submit. Obviously, we can plan to be a few days early if possible, but we definitely don't want to be leaving it to the last minute either. And I always encourage people to celebrate at this point and making sure you reflect on the process. What did you learn from it? Just going through that process. What did you learn about your business? What did you learn about yourself? What other possibilities or opportunities have now come to mind through your process of brainstorming, planning out the project? What else could we do? What other grant applications and programs can we be looking for? So that is, in a nutshell, the 8 steps that I take. So preparing for success, planning, creating and designing, collation, writing it, adding our why, and then reviewing and submitting. So I have obviously helped a lot of clients to be successful in their grant applications, and it really is about what's the difference between them applying and you applying, and normally nothing. And sometimes it's about not knowing that the opportunities exist, not knowing where to look, and not having those growth plans in place either. So a couple of my clients, Matt and Kim, actually, they just finished this project. They finally got their trailer to take around schools to educate school kids about recycling and how they can recycle bottle lids into different products and stuff as well. So that was a massive win for their organization, and they've gone on to apply for a whole heap of grants after that as well. Ben and Jessie, they were able to turn their side hustle into a full-time job for Ben. And Designer Cabinetry, Sarah and James have been able to purchase a big piece of equipment that basically doubled their capacity for their business in their cabinet making business and kitchen, so they could, increase their clients, number of clients, increase the number of kitchens being produced for the year, and also reduce their waiting list as well. At points of time they had wait lists of up to 6 months. We have to close their books for another 6 months while they caught up. So These are just a few examples of how grants have transformed businesses to fast track things and to also do things that they probably never thought was possible. But I can show you how to help you and your business to grow and expand with business grants. So here's some examples of some recent grants in Australia. We've had the energy efficiency, equipment upgrades, Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal for community and not-for-profits, and also the Victorian Circular Economy Recycling Modernisation Fund as well. But once you start looking and know where to look, I'm sure you will find some grants that are appropriate for you and your organisation. So I'm just going to take a moment here. Has anybody got any questions in relation to what I've shared with you today? It can be specifically about your organisation. But also, if I step back to the process that I've shared, what was your biggest takeaway? What was that one piece of information that you were like, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, I must do more of that? I would love to for you to share that with me. Quite often people are surprised at how many supporting documents are required for grant applications, things that they wouldn't necessarily have in their day-to-day operations. There's a question come through around engaging to work with me. So the way that I work is if we are writing grant applications, it's a flat fee, normally around $3,500 to $5,000 per grant. And then when we are, is there a grant to engage you? Not normally. So normally the grants are generally around getting equipment, getting efficiencies, not normally for operational things. Obviously research and medical is slightly different for you, Catherine. So every grant is different, but generally if you're looking at community groups or want to grants to engage professional services, then I would be reaching out to any local funders or local councils to benefit from having a strategic grant writer to help us to identify the opportunities to propel our business to become more sustainable. That would be how I'd be pitching that to some organisations to get some funding through that. But generally, there are very minimal grant programs out there for that operational piece, unfortunately. So we will keep going. So if you are still in the Zoom room, there's a few of you there. I offer a 1 hour strategy call for those to go into the draw for the people that are in the room with me, because I know a lot of people sign up to this and watch the recording, which is totally fine, but I do want to provide that little bit of incentive for people to turn up live. So I'm going to pick a random number, and I've now only got 2 of you. So there's one 50-50 chance. And I've got a number. So Catherine Galvin, congratulations. You are the winner of a 1 hour strategy call with me on Zoom. And in that's awesome.
Sorry, go on.
You're right. So in that strategy session, what we will do in an hour is really learn about your business, discover what's going on, and then identify those opportunities that may be there, and then coming up with a bit of a plan of where you could go in the future to be able to take advantage of these grant opportunities that do exist around Australia. We just have to be in the know to find them. So congratulations to Catherine. So in terms of where do we find out where grants are available? So in Australia, there are a number of grant directories that are free and that are paid subscriptions. So first of all, I always say to people, work out what state you're in, obviously, but go to wherever they are, their business page. So if you're in Victoria, it's Business Victoria. If you're in New South Wales, it's Business New South Wales. Queensland, same thing. South Australia, it's the same as well. Go and subscribe to their grants newsletter, because that'll be the first place that they will put it in. Then there are federal grants listed on Business Australia website. Again, subscribe to those newsletters. They're free ones you can do. Same with your local councils. Go and sign up for their business and community newsletters. And then if you want to invest in it, you can sign up to a paid subscription for a directory where you can go in and search for grants yourself. So the one that I use and that I love is the Grants Hub. thegranthub.com.au. You can do a 14-day trial just to have a search through and see what type of grants are available. And they have a really easy to use search function, and then the grants come up, you can click on them. They'll then take you to the page of the grant provider and then go from there. So they're the best places to start to look for grants, Rebecca. But yeah, it's just about putting it out there and knowing what state you're in, what local council area you're in, talking to people and signing up to those newsletters or subscribing to those grant directories as well. So we do offer the service of searching for grants. So that's something we can definitely talk about. We also offer the service of grant readiness, in terms of if people don't have business plans, don't have those strategic plans they need to attach, getting their financials up to date. We can also help with that as well. And one thing I haven't really talked about today, which I normally do, is having your wish list. So, you know, a lot of people come to me and say, Liz, I need a grant. Are there any grants out there? And my first question will always be, what do you want a grant for? And if you can't tell me straight away what you want a grant for, or even be able to describe the type of things you might want a grant for, you need to think about what's on your wish list. So if you did have $20,000, $10,000 grant available to apply for, what types of things would you need? If you're a business, is it equipment? Is it more staff? Is it to get some put a new program in place? Is it to develop a new workshop offering? If you're not for profit, is it to run a new program? If you're a community group, is it to buy equipment? Is it to upgrade your facilities? There can be grants for a lot of different things, but what's really important is tailored to your organization and your needs and what success looks like for you. So back to the very first slide of today's workshop around what does success mean to you, and developing what's on that wish list. So important. So what's next? So my best approach for grants is to have a strategy session. So this session is a 3-hour session, which is essentially a discovery, brainstorming, and then we'll come up with a plan of what you need to do to be able to get grants and be able to set your business up to become grant ready. So if you are interested in that, please just flick me an email. I'm right in the middle of changing over to my brand new website, which I'm super excited about. But it just means that my booking links aren't working on my old website right now. So best to email me and we can have a chat about the strategy sessions. They're the most comprehensive way of understanding how grants work, how it's going to, the opportunities that may be there for your type of organisation, and then where can you focus your energy to become successful and be able to be ready to apply for those grants. I also have my Grants Ready quiz. Unfortunately, I don't have the link with me right now, but you'll get an email this afternoon with the recording and the link will be in there. It's just a quick quiz to assess yourself whether you are ready for a grant by answering some questions. So I do love my Grant Ready quiz. You can also join my Grants Club community on Facebook using the QR code on the screen there. Again, the link will be sent out in the email later on this afternoon when I send you the recording of this. So apologies again. But I would love to work with you in any capacity. If you do want to have a chat about grants, I also do offer a 15-minute discovery call just to have a very quick snapshot around where business is at an organization, what are those opportunities, what's come up in the past, what could come up in the future, and set you on your way. And I will always give you at least one task to go away with out of those discovery calls. But also it's a good way to work out whether it's something you want to invest in later on, and how we can work together to get you to achieve your strategic growth plans that you desire. So back to that, my favorite quote about grants: nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity. So how much money have you missed out on through grants? And you may not even know the answer to this, you probably won't, but you'll know that there were some opportunities that you might have seen it was due tomorrow, you didn't have enough time, you didn't have some documents they wanted. That's what I'm trying to avoid. I want people to, if they're eligible to apply for a grant, to apply. And then have a really successful application, putting our best foot forward so that we get that approval. So thank you so much for spending this lunchtime with me. I really appreciate you being online. Thanks to those who are watching the recording. Please do get in touch. I do love all things grants. I know that that's a bit unique and not many people are out there. You and your organisation be more strategic and focused about grant funding and creating opportunities in your organisation. Feel free to connect with me on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, and on my YouTube channel where this recording will be put as well. Well done to Catherine, who won the strategy call with me. I will be in touch. We'll do that in the next week or so. And otherwise, have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.